Hi and welcome to this new video about semantic kernel, and we're going to go deeper in semantic kernel and starting to do interesting things. So first of all, GPT and other large language model has the concept of tools. They can be taught to use tools. And the idea is that you specify in the request all the definition of the tool that you can use to answer a problem. And you ask the model to optionally use the tool. So the idea is you ask a question to the model, and then you give a set of tools you have, and you can tell to the model, hey, if you determine that to solve my question, I need to use a tool, you can tell me to use the tool. So the model can answer not with a string response, but with a tool call. And large language model does not directly invoke the tool. They had no the possibility because it will be a jailbreak, it will be dangerous. So the large language model is not able to call the tool, but the large language model can answer with a special answer that instructs you to call the tool. And you detect that if the answer type is a tool call, you then call the tool. But the advantage is that instead of you needing to parse a string answer that maybe contain a JSON code, the answer will give you the exact call to the tool that follow your parameter. So it will give you a JSON or a similar structure that make you super simple to extract the parameter to call the tool. And with semantic kernel, doing this, it's really easy and really straightforward. Let's see how. Well, as usual, start by importing some packages, then creating a kernel. But now we start looking at the differences. Now we are creating a function factory. So we are using a function factory to create a function, a semantic kernel function. And this method is create from method, allows you to create a function based on a simple function in C#. In this situation, I'm defining a function that is like a calculator, a function that is capable to executing math operation. An important thing that is in defining this function with a lambda, I'm using the system component model description attribute that is made to understand, to explain which is the tool. This is the description of the tool. Calculate a formula that contains standard operators. And then for each parameter, in this situation, I have only one parameter called formula. I'm giving the description, the formula, something like 4/5 raised to the power of 2. And then I'm not creating a real implementation in C#, but it's not difficult to create an implementation that actually does math calculation, okay? And I'm giving this function the name math formula. So this is very important. We are able to define in semantic kernel function, simply function in C# that perform complex tasks, the typical tasks that are not performed by a large language model. A large language model is not capable of doing math. So you can add a function like this. Now, I have no real implementation, it's not important, but you can have function that does something, does things, and you can create a function with a kernel function factory. And let's see how we can use these functions. Each large language model has its own syntax. We are using OpenAI. So we are simply using create from function, my plugin function, okay? And that is the function we have. So we create from method a function factory. And then we are creating from function with the kernel plugin factory, we're creating a plugin. So first of all, we create a function. From the function, a series of functions, we create a plugin. And then from the plugin, that is a collection of functions, we use the get functions metadata, and it's a method that allows semantic kernel to extract metadata, all the description of the various functions and parameters. And then I get the first because I know that I have only one function, and I call the special method to OpenAI function that allow me to create an OpenAI function object that describes this. Okay, so I'm just playing and I'm creating the function, and I'm just press play and create the OpenAI function. The OpenAI function, as you can see, has a lot of method, description, fully qualified name, function name, parameter, plugin name. It's not important. It's a definition of a function that Semantic Kernel made for you. And it's OpenAI function because it can be used in a call to a large language model that is implemented with OpenAI function, like in our example where we are using GPT-4o. So we're not really interested in what's inside the OpenAI function. What we are interested into is we can use the create function from prompt as previous example, but now we have a really important different line. That is this one, tool call behavior. So we are telling that we have a required function, OpenAI function. So we are asking to the large language model, hey, you will answer calling this specific function. And it seems strange that you are forcing a large language model to use a function. But this is a very easy way to force the large language model to answer some structured JSON you can use for doing things. So if you want the large language model if you want force the large language model into answering a precise JSON, a specific structure, you want an answer that is structured, you need to use this technique. You need to specify a function that accepts a series of parameters that is the structure you want. And then you force the large language model to use that function in answering your question. So the large language model will be forced to answer using that structure, and you don't need to parse any JSON output from the large language model, and you are not incurring the risk from large language model to answer incorrect JSON, because, large language models are pretty good in creating JSON answer, but sometimes they made mistake. This way, you are forcing the large language model to correctly answering with a structured object. Now I'm simply press play, I'm creating the chat, and then I'm creating my question like the previous example. And my question is, do you know the solution of 4 plus 6 divided by 5? So I'm just pressing play and it answered it. And now, as the previous example, I'm using the result get value string to output the result, and the answer is empty. And that is because you are forced with the require function, you force the large language model not to answer with a string, but to answer with a tool call. And let's see how we can retrieve the structure of the tool call from the answer of semantic kernel. So as you can see, if you dump the value type member of the result, you can see that it will be of type OpenAI chat message content. And this is because semantic kernel is a wrapper of your large language model. But you know that when you're going to examine some complex interaction with large language model, you need to understand how the large language model answers to you. So we are using OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, GPT-4o, and we know that we have the OpenAI chat message content result. And this is the result that contains much more information than a simple string. So let's press play and let's see what happened when I call display. And the idea is it's Azure OpenAI chat completion function tool call, because I know since I forced the large language model to answer with a tool, I'm expecting a single tool call. And pressing display, it is a structured data. It's the my plugin math formula. So it's specifying you need to call the my plugin math formula. And the argument is formula, the parameter formula, and it's 4 plus 6 divided by 5. So you see it's a valid JSON. It's a perfectly valid JSON, and it will always be a valid JSON because it's not generated by a prompt string. It's a tool call, and you have another ID that is an internal ID. So that is very, very, very important. Remember, when you force the large language model to answer with a tool call, you are forcing the answer to call that kind of function. So it's a pretty nice way to force large language model to answer structured content. But in production, we are not using the display function. So let's go on and let's see another interesting example. So first of all, the OpenAI message content is a way to examine more information about the answer of the interaction with the large language model. So you can retrieve the model ID. So it's GPT-4o. Okay, perfect. I can write prompt token, complexion token, so I can monitor the usage. And you have a lot of information, like in metadata, the finish reason is stop. So you can pretty much looking at every parameter that is normally returned from an API call to a GPT-4o. But this time you don't need to know the API or the model. You can simply interact with semantic kernel, and then only if you need, you go and get the value of a specific result. Now, what I need to do is I want to know which parameter I want to access the JSON that is the response of the large language model for my tool call. And in this situation, I can call the get OpenAI function tool calls, okay? And I can call the single because I know I've specified a single function call and I want a single call. So the large language model can answer with multiple function calls. So it's not important in this situation. So I get the tool call, and the tool call has the function name, and it has an argument, and the argument is subdivided into key value, where key is a string representing the name of the parameter, and value is the object representing the value of the parameter. So running this, I know that I need to call my math formula with the parameter formula equal to this string. So it is very, very nice because it allows me to interact with the large language model and forcing him to answer a JSON that I'll use to call tools. And in real scenario, you often specify a set of tools. So you create plugins that are a collection of functions. So you give to the large language model a set of tools it can use. And then it answers telling you need to call that specific tool. And that is it's a very advanced and useful way to interact with your large language model if the large language model has the function tool capability. To recap, if forcing a large language model to use a single function is the perfect way to have large language model answer structured output. You create a simple function and you create all the argument of that function will be the structure of the object you want, the structure of the JSON you want as answer from the large language model. Then you create a kernel function from that C# function. Then you create a kernel plugin with that single function as a single function of the plugin. Then you use the tool call behavior require function to force the large language model to answer with a call of that function. Then when the answer comes back from the large language model, it is not a string answer, but instead it is a JSON call, a JSON that is used to call that specific function. And thanks to semantic kernel, you don't even need to parse that JSON because that JSON is parsed for you, and you can simply access a strongly typed C# object that contains name of the function to call, arguments in a nice dictionary, and so on. And this is really, really interesting, and it makes creating some complex interaction with large language model really easy. I hope you like this video. If you like it, do not forget to press the like button below, and subscribe to this channel for new video on this subject. Bye bye.